George mentioned at the beginning why we're here today, and that's for, of course, the kids, as well as very much for Dr. Mike Frogel, who we lost. Um, Mike spearheaded this with George since 2008. They were co-founders and partners together. I came into the picture in 2016 and worked under their wing from an administrative standpoint. Um, but Mike was, as George will tell you, the absolute nucleus of this operation. This was Mike's life, his pride, his love, and he was incredibly passionate and dedicated. I realize not all of you knew Mike. I'd imagine a number of you on this program, knew Mike personally or professionally, perhaps in some way, shape, or form for some period of time. But over the next few minutes from the time we have remaining on our end, I'd like to speak about Mike, and I've prepared some remarks. So I would appreciate your time and attention over the next couple of minutes. I'll go ahead and read these. For 8 years, I had the honor of working with Dr. Michael Frogel at the New York City Pediatric Disaster Coalition. In fact, it was Mike who hired me when I arrived at the coalition back in 2016. Over the years, I got to know Mike quite well, and I would like to tell you more about Mike's storied career and share the remarkable person he was. Michael Paul Frogel was born into a religious Jewish family on September 27, 1950. He grew up in Brooklyn in the Bensonhurst neighborhood along Bay Parkway. Mike attended Yeshiva University and upon graduating began medical school at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. True to his continued roots in New York, Mike would find himself completing his residency at Long Island Jewish Medical Center, where he made chief resident his third year. LIJ would become a place Mike would call home over the next 4 decades. First at Queens Hospital Center, which was then part of LIJ, and later at Schneider Children's Hospital, known today as Cohen's Children's Medical Center of Northwell Health. It was at Cohen's Mike would make his way up the pediatric department ladder, earning too many titles, appointments, committee roles, and awards to keep track of. These are things Mike rarely mentioned, but instead things I discovered over the years from his CV. He was a distinguished leader, a mentor to so many, but most notably was his dedication for providing and improving pediatric healthcare. Mike was a true pioneer pediatric champion and disaster preparedness advocate from the beginning. And this all carried over beyond his long accomplished clinical career into his 2008 establishment of the New York City Pediatric Disaster Coalition with Dr. George Fulton. As time went on, Mike emerged as a nationally recognized and highly respected expert in the world of pediatric disasters. He established the National Pediatric Disaster Coalition with Patricia Frost in 2015 and became a key advisor to RAPM, the Western Regional Alliance for Pediatric Emergency Management, as per Pediatric Center of Excellence in 2019. When it comes to pediatric disaster preparedness, Mike's achievements and impacts locally and nationally over these last 20 years could never possibly be expressed in this speech. And that's not even touching on his work in Israel. These are stories for another time, but if there's one thing so many of us remember the most, that was Mike's passion. There was no individual who was a more passionate pediatric advocate than Mike Frogel. Mike was not only a highly passionate professional, but a man who was just as dedicated to his family as he was the pediatric community. He was a loving husband to his wife and father to 4 sons, all of whom have become just as successful in their careers as Mike was in his. Later on came Mike's next generation of pride, his grandchildren, and in more recent time, a great-grandchild. Mike truly loved spending time with his family, especially during holidays and going on trips to Israel, which eventually became his second home and his final resting place. Mike resided in the Bell Harbor section of the Rockaways until the very last years of his life. He was a devoted member of his synagogue and community, including opening his door to local concerned parents seeking care for their sick child. Mike was full of energy, both in his work contributions and in his personal life. He would routinely swim in the ocean during the summers and would play full court basketball even until his later years. Mike didn't live a cookie cutter life. For those of you who know him well enough, you know what I mean. The Mike I knew was the world's greatest boss, the best one could ever have. But he was much more than just my boss. As my time with PDC went on, Mike became a great friend despite being much older than me and coming from different backgrounds. To me, Mike was like family. Mike had a unique way about him to connect with people, especially when they were in a time of need. He was there for me when my own father passed away, and Mike would help anyone because that's who he was. I greatly admired Mike's strong ethics and his willingness to always do the right thing, no matter how difficult it was, no matter who or what he was up against. He was humble and would gladly give the credit to someone else if it would benefit the children of the world. Like his career, I could never possibly put into words how special a person Mike was or the impact he had on me over these last 8 years. Some of us knew the fight Mike Frogel had in him. He would never back down from any battle, and 2024 brought the greatest one yet for him. Mike remained tough, but we would ultimately lose Mike last April to a rapid severe illness. We all have dreams in life, including Mike, and it's because of people like you who are so dedicated to the mission of improving pediatric healthcare that Mike's dream will always be fulfilled. Mike is the prime example of a person who did what they loved in life, excelled at it, and left their mark on the world. There is no replacing Mike Frogel, but we could all do our best to try to be like Mike. If there is anything you could take away from today, please remember Dr. Michael Frogel is a man of faith, a family man, a person of great integrity, and an invaluable asset to the pediatric community. May he rest in peace and never be forgotten. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to honor Mike today and for carrying on his legacy. And I ask you to join me in a moment of silence for Mike. Thank you.